Hey guys, this is Eric Young, and you're listening to Booking the Territory.
Hey, this is Ring of Honor superstar Donovan Dijak, and you're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
This is a one-man gang. You're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
This is Booking the Territory, a pro wrestling podcast hosted by Mike Mills, Hardbody Harper from Wildcat Sports and Entertainment, and the mentally irregular Doc Turner. This podcast is a mix of your topics and thoughts in the world of pro wrestling, along with interviews and discussions with current independent stars and your favorite stars from the past. And now, here's your host, Mike Mills.
Thank you for checking out this week's YouTube episode of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast, where I'm welcoming in WarBeard Hanson from the popular tag team and Ring of Honor War Machine with Ray Rowe. He will be this week's guest on Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast on our YouTube channel. I appreciate you checking out this week's YouTube episode. And like always, if you enjoy this show and enjoy what we have done in the past with our guests like Kenny the Star Maker Bolin, One Man Gang, Ring of Honor star Donovan Dijak and the Beer City Bruiser, and even Eric Young of NXT and TNA and Impact Wrestling fame. Please subscribe to our audio version of the show wherever you get your podcast from, whether that's iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, TuneIn Radio, and more. We are on each and every one of those platforms, and probably wherever you can get your podcast from, we are there. So check us out. Before I throw it over to WarBeard Hanson, please also follow us on Twitter at BTT_podcast. I am also on Twitter at Mike504Saints. We'd appreciate it. Also on iTunes, man. If you enjoy this episode after you're finished listening to it, give us a 5-star review once you check us out on our audio platforms such as iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. But on iTunes specifically, throw us a 5-star review. I am currently doing a raffle where every 5 entries we get on iTunes, and what I mean by entries is every 5-star reviews that I get, one of those people will get a Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast t-shirt, one of our Pro Wrestling Tees t-shirts from our ProWrestlingTees.com store. You will get a free t-shirt. So 1 out of every 5-star reviews will get a free t-shirt. And also check out our links below to all of our social media, whether that's Facebook or Twitter. We'd appreciate it. We also do top 5s almost every week now. We've got some top 5s where we've done top 5 tag teams of all time, top 5 worst gimmicks of all time. Check out some of those older shows. They're really, really good. We've gotten a lot of great feedback on them. If you are a listener and want to suggest some top 5s, send them in to us either at Twitter at BTT_podcast or booking the territory at gmail.com. And we will include that top 5 as a future topic on an episode of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast. That's all I got for right now. I'm going to throw it over to the conversation with WarBeard Hanson from Ring of Honor and the Tag Team War Machine, former ROH Tag Team Champion WarBeard Hanson on Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast. Thanks again for checking out this week's show, everyone.
Okay, everybody, like I was telling you on the opening of the show, I got on WarBeard Hanson, current ROH superstar. And I stress superstar because, man, I'm just glad he gave me his time, and I feel fortunate to talk to him, man. So, WarBeard Hanson, how you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Like I was telling you before we started recording, I appreciate your time, and we'll keep this lighthearted, and I got a few questions for you. But other than that, if things get to free-flowing, well, you know, that's a good thing as well. So, I always like to kick things off. I've actually asked, I've had a few of your friends on by the name of Brian Fury, Donovan Dijak, Brian Malonis, just to name a few. And I always start the conversation with non-wrestling stuff, so I'm gonna start the same thing with you tonight. How big of a fan are you of, say, the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, etc.?
I'm not really. I'm more of just a casual fan. I
really
focus so much time on wrestling that I don't really have time to pay attention as I used to as a kid. I used to be a huge fan as a kid, but as I've gotten older, I'm just more of a casual fan.
That's funny you say that. I'm still a fan, but I'm not as invested as I probably was many, many years ago when I was younger. It's time for me with young kids and just kind of being busy with work and stuff. But I can respect that. Now, when you were a fan, who were, like, say, NFL? Were you a Patriots fan, kind of coming up in the New England area?
Yeah, I was definitely a Patriots fan. I hated Drew Bledsoe, though. So I thought the greatest thing in the world was when Bledsoe got hurt and Tom Brady had to step in.
I hear you.
I wasn't really a Red Sox fan, though, when I was a kid. I was a big Toronto Blue Jays fan, believe it or not.
Really? How did that come about?
I have no idea, but as a kid, I loved the Blue Jays. And that 93 there when they won the World Series, that was, like, amazing for me. It was the greatest year of my life.
That's crazy growing up. Because you're from just outside of the Boston area, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess Toronto's not terribly far, but at the same time, yeah, you'd figure you'd be a Red Sox fan. Although the Red Sox had a pretty long stretch of not being successful, I guess, during your childhood too. So
yeah, I still like the big players. I like the Wade Boggses and the Roger Clemens and stuff like that. But I wasn't a huge diehard fan. And part of that might have been me being a jerk kid who liked to root against the home team.
I had friends like that, because I grew up in New Orleans, so obviously Saints fan. I just had friends that they hated the home team so much from losing all the time that they just kind of rebelled, and they were 49ers fans because they were winning Super Bowls and whatnot. So yeah, I kind of know what you mean. I feel that when I watch pro sports sometimes, I feel that it's not always on the up and up. I don't want to call it a work, but I feel like sometimes it's not always on the up and up. Whenever you watch pro sports, do you ever, you're a casual fan, so maybe you're not as invested and don't really think about it, but does that ever cross your mind whenever you're watching an NFL, NBA game and you start seeing things kind of, going one way for one team and you're like, hold on, this team's been out of it all game. Now all of a sudden they turn the juice on, so to say.
Yeah, sometimes you really get that feeling. I know Kowalski was huge on thinking every sport was a complete work. And he preached to us about it constantly. But things like football, you wonder because there's literally these plays that go together. And if you play one defense against one offense, then the offense is gonna score. Or you play one defense against one offense, and the defense is gonna shut that offense down. And you wonder if there are puppeteers up somewhere way up high in the stadium that are really calling the shots to make games flow in certain directions. Because it could happen. Definitely could happen. That, especially with the NFL. But you never know.
Yeah, I don't put it past them. I mean, in the NBA, look, they had a ref who they caught, for I don't want to call it fixing games, but calling fouls when they weren't fouls, and so I mean it happened in the NBA. Look, I'm not this big conspiracy theorist, but at the same time, I can't put anything past anything. With it being a work, so I think I'm a Kowalski fan. I did not know that about him, but knowing that he said that, because it's kind of like the wrestling business. To me, it kind of ruins you. You start thinking everything's a work, even just any little thing in life. You start to look at it through a side eye. You're like, wait, hold on. Is this real? Is this really happening, or is somebody pulling my leg?
Kowalski too. Walter he would tell stories. I don't remember the stories very well now, but he would tell stories about boxers that he worked with who would literally tell him stories about throwing fights, and like big-name boxers too, because they wouldn't bring in anything but big-name boxers, but they would bring them in, and he would talk to them about worked professional boxing. I mean, so I think that's where like that generated inside him everything is a work, because boxing being as big as it was, they were definite, like confirmed by big names to him, confirmed big match works. So I think that's where he got like in his head that everything was a work.
And he came up too in an era like with the Black Sox scandal in baseball. I mean, he was around during that time. So that would make sense to me that he would really, really be skeptical of things, because I mean, he witnessed it, and if you witness it, it becomes your reality. It's not just a thing that you're dreaming up. You actually see it happen. So
exactly. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. I never asked Brian Malonis this. I will ask him this though. How was it? Kind of. And I don't want to get too much into your initial training because you did a great job with Brian Malonis on the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing. So I'm plugging that, not shamelessly. I'm plugging it. Anybody listening to this wants to hear more of WarBeard Hanson's story, initial or coming up story. Go check out that podcast, the 2 episodes he did with the Kingpin Brian Malonis, because it was really good. But at the same time, I did want to ask, like, how was it, coming up under a guy like Kowalski, because he was really, really an old school legend. I mean, I remember that guy. I didn't grow up in that territory, but of course I knew who he was.
Yeah, oh yeah. Walter was awesome, and Walter was always in the New England area. We had Killer at our school, obviously at the tail end of his life. So he wasn't as active in the ring as a lot of other guys had him, like when Triple H started or when Albert started or China or whatever. But we had him, and I think the biggest thing that I ever got from him was to be passionate and real in the ring. And I think that's a lost art at times now in professional wrestling, is the ability to make people believe. And that's what Walter really, really, really harped on, was making people believe in what you do. And I mean, you can watch all sorts of indie wrestling across the world, and most of it, it's just not believable. It's poor quality. It's not, the passion is not there, and the believability is not there. And we were lucky enough to have Kowalski to really drill that into our heads every time he was there.
It's funny you say that, because I'm not trying to blow smoke up you and Ray Rose butt, but you guys are believable as a tag team. And it's funny you say that about Kowalski. That was one of the things that he taught that was, kind of stuck with you, because you look at you two and you can see the believability. There's no doubt when you guys come out, it's believable. You look like, not only look like you're about to whip some ass. And wow, yeah, that's a cool little story, man. It really is.
Yeah, that's what makes people stand out, especially nowadays, is if they can believe you. If people believe in you, then you're marketable. And it's pretty much a lost art at this point in professional wrestling.
Yeah, I could agree with that, especially when you look at some of the indie shows that are out there, as you say. Now, when you first got started, and I said I didn't want to ask anything repetitive, so hopefully this isn't a repetitive question. Were you thinking, like, initially, when I make it, when you got your start, what year did you get your start? Let me ask that, because I forgot.
February 15th of 2001 was 2002 was my first match. I started in 2001 training.
I couldn't remember if it was like 99 or I don't know why 99 was sticking in my mind. Maybe I'm thinking of Brian Fury. Yeah. Okay, so 01, you got your first match in 02. When you first started, were you kind of in your mind, because I know most guys, and talking to a lot of people, they kind of think like this. They'll say, in X amount of years, it's my goal to be in WWE. If I don't make it, maybe I'm not going to pursue it. Like, did you have a time frame in mind that you were like, okay, if I haven't made it by this point, I don't know, maybe it's not for me? Or were you just, that never crossed your mind? You were always like, I'm going to make it, no matter if it takes 5, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. I will get there.
I didn't have like a number or anything like that, and set in my mind when I first started. I just figured it was going to happen. It had to happen. It was going to happen.
I gotcha.
But then as I trained a little longer and got more knowledgeable about the way that the wrestling business worked, then in my head it was 30 years old. When I get to be 30 years old, then there's just no chance I'm going to make it into the WWE, and I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to quit. That's what I thought.
Okay. And I'm gonna hark back. I'm gonna drive people to that interview you did with Brian Malonis, your good friend, the Kingpin, because what I was about to tell you when we met each other at Oklahomania was the week that you were on with, or the first week you were on with Brian Malonis. I had a listener tweet our show, and his exact words to me, and it was poetic that your interview happened next week. His exact words were, "Please only bring ROH guys and TNA guys on your show. because we really don't want to hear from the indie guys. And it was like magical because that week was the week that the first part of your interview with Brian Malonis hit. And you talked about your indie journey and, I forget, you didn't have your license wasn't taken away, you were riding a bike to work and to practice. And the passion that takes to stick with the sport at that point, I found refreshing, and I actually used it on my show that week. I was like, I told this guy, I was like, hey, you don't want to hear from indie guys. It's your problem, not mine. You need to listen to a guy like WarBeard Hanson's story because he embodies the indie guy that made it, who had plenty of struggles and could have easily at any point in time packed it up and just said, nah, I'm going to keep going. And, you had friends that helped you along the way, but at the end of the day, you were the one that were getting on your bike because you couldn't drive, driving, going to work, going to school, to wrestling school and practicing. And, I felt that was, and anybody listening to this, again, go listen to the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing with WarBeard Hanson's story because it's truly magical. I just felt like that was one of the most refreshing things I'd heard. It was timely for me because I sent this guy to that. I was like, you need to go listen to this if you don't want to hear from indie guys because this is what indie guys experience before they get to ROH, before they get to TNA, before they get to WWE. They start somewhere. They don't just start in those places generally. So I just wanted to tell you, man, that story, your story was unreal to listen to it because it was perseverance. It was your drive that just was awesome.
And usually with thank you very much. Usually in podcasts, I don't get the opportunity to talk about that stuff because nobody knows that I went through it, and they don't ask the right questions. So it was nice with Malonis' podcast, the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing, that he knows my story. He was there for the whole thing, and we were able just to sit down. That's the most in-depth interview I might ever do because of his knowledge about what I've gone through from being there and seeing my struggle and being a part of it. So that was a fun podcast to do, and it's a really good listen.
Yeah, he and I, when I've interviewed him the first time about a month ago, we talked about you for a while, and it was, he was saying that. He was like, he said nobody would know to ask you those questions because they couldn't even get to the point to get into that lead into those questions because they wouldn't have known. There's no way they would have had that, interpersonal experience with Hanson to know to even come close to that. So it's good because it kind of tells the indie guys out there who are on the, they're hitting the pavement and on that journey, whether it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, keep after it. If you're doing it right, someone will take notice. And that was your story. Because I forget the years before you, how many years was it before you got with ROH from the time you had your first match? 13.
It was just about 13 years. The Top Prospect tournament was in January 2014, so it was just about 13 years.
That's incredible, man. I mean, that even shows the drive, the type of person you are to not give up on it and keep pursuing it. Because it's easy to throw in the towel. I mean, just say, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm 10 years in. I'm not gonna, So, but you stuck with it, man. That's awesome, man. Congrats to you on that one.
Thank you.
No problem, man. No problem at all. I wanted to ask you a question about Final Battle from 2015, ROH Final Battle. I mean, I'm sure anybody listening to this that saw it know that, Matt Taven got injured pretty early in it. If you're not at liberty to discuss this, that's fine. I just was curious. The match, according to Wikipedia, went like 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Obviously you guys were supposed to go longer than that. Can you shed any insight on how long the actual match was supposed to be? That's the only question I'm asking about it, not any other inner workings of it.
A considerable amount longer. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was okay. Supposed to be a considerable amount of time longer. And literally, the only time that I was tagged in was to go to the top rope and deliver our finish. That was it. So you can imagine.
Did you Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's right. There was a lot more time that we had to fill. So
yeah,
it just didn't happen.
Did you realize it right away when Matt Taven was injured?
No, I didn't know. there was a moment shortly after when I was on the floor and Taven just collapsed next to me. And that was when I said to myself that something's wrong. And then after that, it was literally, I saw him struggle to do a move in the ring to Rowe. And when Rowe came over to tag me, I knew we were going right home. There wasn't no way that we were gonna do anything that we had discussed. So that was definitely going to be the finish. We had a considerable amount longer. I don't remember the time, but we had a good amount of time to fill that didn't get filled.
Yeah, it was so quick. I remember watching it that night, going, dang. I mean, you could see. I mean, I kind of noticed it right away, but I was like, dang, it was so quick, so quick. What was it like working with Cornette at Oaklamania? Was that the first time you'd gotten to work with him?
Yes, that was awesome. He's a trip, and he loved us, which was great. I was expecting us to mess something up that he didn't like and get one of those old Cornette run up and down you that you hear about from everybody else. But I guess it's great that he didn't. He really liked us, but I don't know. It might have been a cool story if he had just hated us and yelled and screamed at us. I don't know. But it was awesome. He really liked us, and it's a good feeling when somebody who's been around the business for such a long time compliments you and puts you over and tells you you do a good job and really means it. So that was a really cool experience for us.
Especially somebody like Cornette who seems to not be afraid to just rip people from limb to limb. It's like his gimmick at this point. That's cool, man. And I saw that he managed you all, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I wonder what it was like when you were first walking up to him, or he's first walking up to you. Are you thinking that? You're like, man, what's he gonna be like? Because you know his kind of track record. Not that he's a bad person, just
yeah. I mean, I met him once or twice before, but this is the first time we're going to work with him. I just, in the back of my head, the whole time we were even in the ring, I'm like, what are we going to do that he's going to lose his mind over? Like, what is it going to be? And I thought for sure, like I had some miscommunication in the match with Jeff. I thought for sure I'd come out back and there it was, the reaming, the screaming, and the Jim Cornette that you hear about, but I don't know. I guess I did everything right. I was half expecting just the fact that we're from Ring of Honor. That might, I don't know if that was going to, put red in his eyes from whatever issue he had with Ring of Honor before. That was way before me and Ray, so I don't know anything that really went on there, but I know there's obviously a bad taste in his mouth from Ring of Honor, so I was expecting just guilt by association.
Yeah.
But no, it was really cool. It was really cool that he didn't yell and scream at us, and he liked us. That's a cool experience.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because he is hard on a lot of Ring of Honor guys and older Ring of Honor guy. I mean, we don't have to mention who, but good and well.
Yeah, the ones that were around when he was around. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but you're right.
They all hate each other, so it's fine.
Right. But it was interesting, man. I remember thinking to myself, it's just one of the things that crossed my mind when I was there. I was like, okay, so Cornette's gonna manage War Machine tonight. All right, this ought to be interesting. And it was nothing against, I've seen you and Ray work on TV a bunch of times, and you guys are great. But you're right. I could see why you would say, you're sitting there and something happens. What's the one thing that's going to happen in this ring tonight that he's not going to be cool with, and he blows a gasket on, right? And he's only been around for 40 years in the business, and you're like, okay, here it comes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. I was talking. Do you know a guy named Chris Silvio?
Oh, I did his podcast. Is he a podcast?
Oh yeah, Chris don't know if he still does. I think he did. Yeah, he had one. I don't know if he still does. The reason
I think I did his podcast.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, Chris was telling me a story about ROH similar to what you just told me. Like something happened, and he's like, Jim went from being calm and cool to going a million miles a second, just pissed off, MF this, MF that in the back. So yeah, the reason I brought it up is because he was telling me the story about how Cornette was calm at 1 second, and the next second he was like literally about to have a heart attack and an aneurysm all in one.
Yeah, those are the same stories I hear all the time.
He just gets like worked up and wired. It's crazy. So you got to work with Cornette, and that was cool. Obviously, it worked out, and he liked you all, which is a beautiful thing considering, like you said, you were hoping there was no guilt by association. What about working with Jim Ross?
That was really cool. Yeah. I mean, when I did my WWE tryout, Jim Ross was there, and that was really the only Jim Ross interaction that I've ever had. He came to the Ring of Honor show that was in Oklahoma like a year and a half ago, but he didn't stay for the whole show. I'm not even sure that he saw me wrestle. So it was cool to even know that he knew who we were. He's the one who came up to us to talk to us. I thought that was neat. And he had a lot of compliments to say, good things to say, which was nice. It's nice to get those from your peers. And those are people who have no problem letting you know whether you suck or not. So he was really cool to us. Gave us some good advice and just let us know that we're doing the right things. So that was a really cool experience. And to know how involved he was in the show and putting us in the main event with the Hardy Boys. It's the whole night, the whole experience was just really amazing.
I thought that was real cool and real telling that, with all the talent that was there, because let's be honest, Oklahomania was a stacked card, that it was you guys against the Hardys in the main event. I mean, to me, that's telling, especially with Jim Ross over it all. That's kudos to you and Ray Rowe. That's amazing to me. I couldn't be happier for you guys because, I mean, both of you worked hard. You spent time on the Indies, and that's cool, man, for him to put y'all in that spot. That's good. I'll be honest, I didn't get to see the match. How was the match with you guys and the Hardys?
It was great. Ray and I both had the opportunity to wrestle Matt before. This is our first time in the ring with Jeff. And we seemed to flow really good. What was really cool, a lot of cool things about the whole experience, but we have never actually worked full blown heel before, as far as our War Machine tag team goes.
Right.
So this is the first time that we actually went out there and we're total bad guys. That never happens. In Ring of Honor, we're always just the ass kickers, and we usually get cheered. We're not really going out there to kiss babies and slap hands, but we get a good reaction because we're different, and we tend to play on the babyface side.
Yeah.
So this was the first time that we got to go out and be heels, and that was another good experience for us because we don't get that opportunity to do that often.
Yeah, I'd imagine, especially now with what I've seen from Ring of Honor TV the last couple of weeks with you and Ray and what looks like Shane Taylor and Keith Lee. Shane and Keith, who I've both had on this show before, and I've seen plenty of their work on the Indies and been the shows that they've been on. I'd imagine with the way that's going, not asking you to send out any spoilers, obviously, but you guys definitely seem to be the definitive baby faces with that, unless I'm wrong.
No, for the most part, but there's things that Shane and Keith do that people their size shouldn't be able to do, much like Ray and I. So it's a really interesting dynamic when you see us in the ring together. I mean, Keith Lee is he defies gravity for a man his size, and Shane Taylor moves Actually, Shane Taylor's pretty comparable to Malonis as far as being a big man and being agile and athletic.
Mm-hmm.
They tip the scales way up there, but Shane Taylor can move. So it's an interesting dynamic when you get us all in the ring together.
Hey, really? Well, I mean, you can move too for somebody. You do some flying too. Don't undersell what you can do. I mean, I've sold Shane and Keith on this show a bunch of times, but I've seen you do some flying for a guy your size. Heck, it seems like all of you big guys, man, you guys are flying around nowadays. It's incredible. I hear people all the time say, well, work like a big man, but no, do the things that are unusual because that makes you stand out. Even though there's a bunch of you that can do it, still, I like to see that. I like to see a guy who can move and fly as a big guy.
It's good to sprinkle it in there because it does stand you out. There aren't too many 300-pounders going out there doing cartwheels and such. So
right. Exactly.
That separates me. But having Keith and Shane, it's a whole different dynamic on the Ring of Honor television because if you look at the Ring of Honor's tag division, let's say if you put everybody in the Ring of Honor tag division into New Japan, well, we're probably the only true heavyweights of the bunch. Everybody else would be considered juniors.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got Shane and Keith who come in, and they are legitimately physically imposing to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it sheds a whole new dynamic on what War Machine has had to deal with inside the ring.
Yeah.
So it's real. It's really, really cool, I think, if you're flipping through the stations and you turn on Ring of Honor and you're like, oh, there's War Machine. Oh, who are these big guys? We've never seen them wrestle big guys before, not like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do things to us that no one's been able to do to us before, just because of their sheer power and size. So it's a whole different thing that you can watch on Ring of Honor television that we haven't seen before.
It is. When I had on Shane in January of this year on my show, and then Keith I brought on. Keith and I met. I'd seen him wrestle a couple times, but Keith and I met WrestleMania weekend in person finally, and we talked, and he was like, yeah, man, I'll come on, and this is after I had Shane on. And so when I had him on, we were talking about Ring of Honor, and he had been doing dark matches at that point, and he had done the Future of Honor stuff. And then he had kind of alluded to, that they were going to be doing something soon. He just obviously couldn't say what, didn't want to spoil it. And so I was very happy a couple of weeks ago when I saw him on there. And it's funny because he and I mean, we had talked about you guys and War Machine, the whole thing, and he just didn't say anything concrete. But I laughed because this, I'm gonna mention this listener of mine who was complaining about the indie guys that were on. So when Keith was on, we were talking about his flying ability, how he can defy gravity at 275 pounds and just a big dude. And so I tweeted it out once they showed it. I'm like, oh, let me get this on video and tweet this out because Keith going flying over. I don't know if he landed on you or Ray or both of you in that episode, but I'm like, yeah, buddy, I told y'all he could fly. Y'all gonna listen to me next time. But I say all that to say, nobody had seen him when I had him on the show, just on local indies at that point. And I say all that to say, like you said, they bring a different mix to the tag division because you're right. I mean, and it's nothing against the Young Bucks or anyone else who, just smaller guys. Like you said, they're juniors. They're the first team that you guys have really had to deal with that are true heavyweights. So it's kind of refreshing and new. And I think that's when you say that, man, that's a good thing for Ring of Honor TV.
It's a very, very, very good thing. I mean, Ring of Honor in general is a whole it's the junior wrestling style, the whole company.
Yeah.
There really aren't many true heavyweights in the company. So when the true heavyweights get filtered in, get mixed in, it just adds different dynamics that are awesome. They're absolutely awesome. And really, it started with me and Ray when we blew through the Top Prospect tournament in 2014. We were the only real true heavyweights in Ring of Honor. Moose joined shortly after, and there's been big guys like Dijak and now Shane and Keith that are starting to make names for themselves, and we were able to prove that the big guys, the true heavyweights, can belong in a junior dominated promotion.
And especially like guys like you and Ray and Shane and Keith, and Dijak and Moose. I know Moose is not there anymore, but I mention all those names because I don't want to sit there and say you guys work like smaller guys, but you can do what the smaller guys can do even at your size.
Yeah, we can move. And that's
right.
Something very appealing, I think, to the wrestling generation that we're in right now. It's people want to see people do cool things. And the days of people like Psycho Sid being the true heavyweight or Earthquake, I'm just throwing names out there.
Yeah.
Those guys aren't the guys who people want to see anymore. They want to see heavyweights that they can move and they're entertaining and they can do stuff. They can go. And it's cool to see the heavyweights in Ring of Honor now that they can do really cool things, really unique things, and they can move and they can go. They can be put into a 30, 40-minute match, and they can have the gas in the tank to do that. So all while going toe-to-toe with all these junior wrestlers. So it's not something that's been seen in the past. It's new. It's new to the generation that we're in right now.
It's new, and to me, it's a must-have for wrestling nowadays. You gotta that old. There's nothing against the names that you mentioned, like Sid and or even like King Kong Bundy back in the day, or
they were awesome. They were absolutely awesome back then.
And here's the thing. That's what was expected of them, and the people they accepted that. It wasn't like they were being rejected for that style. So, but nowadays, a big guy can't go out there and do that. They're just not going to, the people are not going to stand for it as much. So, it's a credit to the big guys who've adjusted, their style. Because, like, when you first started, I mean, you've always been a big guy. Have you modified your style a lot since starting because of that? Because, I mean, I'd imagine 01, the big guys still – I mean, big guys were starting to move at that point, but it's not like it is today. I mean, 15 years later.
Well, with me, I always wanted to wrestle like a junior.
Okay.
My biggest inspirations were guys like the 1-2-3 Kid and Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty and Aldo Montoya. Those were my favorite wrestlers as a kid. So I always wanted to be that underdog guy. So I always wrestled like that. And honestly, the way that I wrestle now is more like a big guy than I ever wrestled before.
Really? So you kind of actually adjusted. I don't want to say adjusted. You've toned it down a little compared to initially, considering what you're saying right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I was a bump machine, and I was big time, just wrestle. Like, I'd be having matches like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, Iron Man, that style, like very technical pro wrestling. Now I wasn't doing all these crazy flips and dives and stuff, but I was doing a lot more non-big guy stuff. And being on television and Ring of Honor has really slammed it into me that I need to wrestle like a big guy, like the monster that I look like.
Yeah. And
then on the other hand, I've never looked like I look now with the beard and the war skirt and the snarling and the growling. That was never me before. I was Handsome Johnny. So it was just so different when I wrestled before as opposed to how I'm wrestling now.
Which is a fantastic look. It was funny because Brian Malonis and I, when we were talking about your days, I guess I'll call them your younger days, and we were talking about when Sasha was training, and Sasha on Jericho's podcast had said Handsome Johnny as one of her trainers, and I say all that to say nobody realized that she was talking about WarBeard Hanson because she said Handsome Johnny and not WarBeard Hanson. which was what Brian and I were talking about that. She's like, yeah, she called him Handsome Johnny, and people were like, you know, they didn't know. But it goes back to your old, you know, what your name was at the time when you were beardless. And yeah, I've seen pictures and I've seen, you know, video of your work back then. Yeah, you look like two totally different people. But it's not just the image with the beard. It's the whole, you know, it's everything. It's your mannerisms too that make the difference as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just two completely different characters, and they play it as such. But everyone around here, they still call me Handsome. That's my name, Handsome.
Yeah.
No, and if you listen real close, you might even be able to hear Carino drop a handsome line instead of Hanson on commentary every once in a while. You got to pay real close attention, though.
I will have to, because I try to catch Ring of Honor every week, man. It's only an hour. I've had you on, I've had Dijak on, I've had on, you know, like I said, Shane and Keith. I've talked to Beer City Bruiser, and you know, one of the things I'll tell all the guys from Ring of Honor that I talk to, the best part about Ring of Honor is it's only 1 hour, and that's not me knocking WWE. You know, I'm not trying to throw shade at them, but it's 1 hour of TV weekly. It does not consume a lot of my time, like when I'm, you know, watching Raw or SmackDown. So. For anybody out there listening to this, watch Ring of Honor. It's an hour of your time, and after commercials, it's only about 50 minutes, and you get to see some. You get to see some of the best wrestling there is. I will say that.
And that's the other cool thing about Ring of Honor television. It's not a lot of, you know, backstage vignettes and promos, right. and those are there, but wrestling's, you know, Ring of Honor. Our tagline is "This is wrestling." Yeah. And when you turn on Ring of Honor, that's what you get. You get professional wrestling. You don't get all that stuff that you see on Monday nights or whatever night TNA is on. You see professional wrestling at its finest and the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you guys got a hell of a roster. Need to be commended for it. One last question, WarBeard Hanson, before I let you go. I wasn't going to ask you this, but we're recording this on Tuesday night, July the 26th, 2016. Last night, Sasha Banks won the women's title, man. What were you thinking as you watched that?
Honestly, it's no surprise to me. It was coming at some point, and she's earned it. And she was always so good at the school that you hoped that she'd make it. And now at this point, not only has she made it, she is helping to completely change women's wrestling as a whole, and that's absolutely amazing. So it was, and I didn't see it live. I didn't know it was going to happen. I woke up this morning to my Facebook feed just blown up from her winning the women's championship, and it's the coolest thing in the world. She definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I'm the biggest Sasha fan. What she's done for women's wrestling, just, I don't know, man. She's amazing. I was hoping she would win it at Mania, but it didn't happen. Glad she got it, man. It was on a Raw, just unexpected too. At that, it was crazy. But hey, go ahead and plug your social media if you'd like. I'd love to give you a chance to do that while we're on.
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter. It's at WarBeard Hanson. I have a Facebook fan page, and that's really about it. And pretty easy to find. And usually all my posters for the shows are up on Twitter and stuff like that, so it's really easy to find me and see what's going on.
That's going to wrap up this week's episode of our YouTube channel episode with WarBeard Hanson. Real quick, before you hit the stop button, I just want to say I appreciate you checking out the episode. Follow us on our social media. That's either at BTT_podcast on Twitter or Facebook.com/bookingtheterritory. If you look down in the not the comments, but the description below, you'll see both of the links to our Twitter and our Facebook page. I'd appreciate if you like us and follow us there. That way you catch all of our episodes. And like I said, subscribe to our audio version of the podcast that we drop each and every week, where we generally have on a guest, a Ring of Honor star, a TNA star, or independent professional wrestler, or even some folks from the past, like Sam Houston from the Territory days. And he also had a run in WWF at a time, along with the one-man gang, the legendary one-man gang, who has been on the show. We've had on Kenny the Star Maker Bolin from the Jim Cornette Experience, had on on the great Brian Last from the Jim Cornette Experience as well, and the 605 Super Podcast. I've had on Donovan Dijak and the Beer City Bruiser, also Ring of Honor stars. So check all those out, along with Eric Young. We had him on at one time as well. So check them out. Check us out weekly. Every Thursday night we drop a new episode. We greatly appreciate it. Other than that, I appreciate you checking it out. Thanks again for tuning in to this week's YouTube episode of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.